Hello, this is Phil Brink. I'm the consulting coordinator of Colorado Cattlemen's Association's AgWater Network. And the AgWater Network has a new website, agwaternetwork.org, and a tool on the website that AgWater right holders can use to assess their irrigation water lease potential. I'm going to overview the features of the Lease Decision Support Tool in just a minute, but first, some brief background on the AgWater Network and why we have developed this tool. Now, the objective of the AgWater Network is to help keep ag water connected with ag land. As Colorado's population has continued to rise, we are seeing increased demand for water. And in the past, much of the demand for more water has been met by municipalities through the process of buying and permanently drying irrigated farmland. If this trend continues, the state water plan estimates that up to 700,000 additional irrigated acres could be lost by around the year 2050. Now, that amount would represent approximately 1/4 of the remaining irrigated ag land that we have in the state. And where we've seen dry-ups occur, we've seen very dramatic and detrimental impacts to the economies as well as the environment and, of course, food production. So to minimize losses of irrigated farmland, one of the solutions recommended by the state water plan is for more ag water leases, which are also called alternative transfer mechanisms. The idea is for ag water right holders to be able to lease a portion of their water rights to cities and other water users on a temporary, voluntary, and compensated basis. This solution provides the water that other water interests need, as well as income for ag water right holders that is not commodity dependent. Under a lease program, the ag producers keep ownership of their water rights and continue to farm. They simply fallow or deficit irrigate a portion of their land to free up water for leasing. So we developed the decision support tool, which we're going to go through now, to help ag water right holders assess the potential for leasing their water rights for other uses. This tool is based on characteristics of successful ag water leases that are operating in Colorado now. To bring some context to the decision support tool, it is a screening tool. It does not try to capture all of the relevant information and scenarios that would go into a lease. We're also not trying to assign any type of a dollar value to the lease potential. What we are trying to do is provide ag water right holders with a quick and simple way of assessing the potential of leasing their water rights for other uses. So let's dive into the tool now, and you can see I have the page up. And we have some basic information about leasing, what it is, the type of water that can be used in a lease, and that is our consumptive use water, which is the basis of our water right. Why leasing is important, I talked about the state water plan, and then who can use the decision support tool. The decision support tool is open for anyone to use, but it is specifically made and tailored to ag water right holders, and specifically within that group, ag water right holders that have surface water rights. So let's scroll down into the top of the decision support tool, and we ask for some basic information, the contact information, name, mailing address, and so on. I've gone ahead and filled out some of this to save some time. And this is the AgWater Network, the name you were using today, and the mailing address is that of the Colorado Cattlemen's Association over in Arvada. And we scroll down a little more, and we see if our physical address matches our mailing address, we can go ahead and click on Use Mailing Address, and we'll populate that area and fill that out automatically. We go a little further down, we're at the county, and we're in Jefferson County, and our phone number and email address, and now we're into our water district. Now, we may or may not know what our water district is. If we do, we can enter it right there. If we don't, we can go ahead and click on this map right here, and this is going to show us the Division of Water Resources map of all the water districts around the state broken down by basin. Now we are, if you can see my cursor, we are in the Clear Creek district, so in the Clear Creek watershed. So that corresponds to number 7. So we're going to go back, and we'll just enter 7 there. And what is our water right name? Well, we don't have a water right, so we're going to make something up, and we'll just call it CCA. Our source, we're going to call Clear Creek, for example, today. And our ditch company, we're going to call the same name. What is our interest in leasing? We're going to say we have moderate interest. Now we're going to go down to the next section, and you can see we have drop-down menus associated with these. I'm not going to explain each one, but what we're going to see as we go through these is when we select an option or a response to a question, we're going to see a value get automatically assigned. So let's take the first one, and river basin that we are located in, and that's the South Platte. So you can see that we got a value of 3. And that is because the South Platte is, in fact, the fastest growing watershed in the state. We have tremendous demands for water, and so we have a high value placed on that water. And that goes to then the likelihood of being able to maybe lease that water for other purposes or for ag producers. And we can always go over on each of these questions to the little eye icon for more information, and that says, in this case, demand for water varies by basin and within basins. And we'll get more into that as we get to the bottom, and we'll go through some descriptors that indicate exactly why we score things the way we do in our ranking criteria. So the next question is our type of irrigation water right from largest volume to smallest. And we have this little plus symbol here that allows us to add multiple categories. I'm just going to enter one, and I'm going to say we have a mutual ditch share. Our next question is owning reservoir storage rights. And typically, if we have a mutual ditch, if we're on a mutual ditch, our answer is going to be yes, because most of the municipal companies that are providing water to shareholders around the state are going to have some type of storage right. Now, if the answer is no, go ahead and put no, but if we don't know, go ahead and put yes. If we answered yes to the question above, then is a reservoir shared by or upstream of a municipality, an industry, or a water-based recreation use? Well, based on our location here that we're using in this example today in Clear Creek, it's pretty likely that we are upstream or sharing a reservoir with one of those uses, so I'll answer yes there. How many acres do we irrigate? And I'm going to say we have less than 100 acres under irrigation. You can see we got a score of 1 there. Had I indicated 300 or more, we would have gotten a score of 4. And that goes to simply the amount of water that we have available potentially for leasing. What type of crops do we irrigate? I'm going to say we irrigate forage only, and we get a score of 1 there. If I put crops only, we're going to get a score of 3. If I put both, we're going to get a score of 2. I'm going to go with forage only in this case, and that is going to give me a score of 1. The reason for that is because it gets to the intent as well as the logistics that would be associated with leasing water. Because if I'm growing only forage, it's probably because I'm raising livestock, and I would have to make some adjustments to the logistics of my operation if I wanted to lease some of the water that I'm currently using for irrigation. So going on down, what is the irrigation method used based on the irrigated acres from most to least? And again, we have these this little plus icon here so we can add multiple types, but I'm only going to put in 1, and that is I'm going to say we have flood or furrow type irrigation, and we get a score of 3 there. Do we own surface water rights near an in-stream flow right? Well, I may or may not know if I'm near an in-stream flow right, so I can click on this map here. This is a URL to the Colorado Water Conservation Board's in-stream flow right location map. And you can see that on this map it shows lots and lots of little squiggly red lines, and all of those are indicative of in-stream flow locations where the Colorado Water Conservation Board has an in-stream flow right. So this map is kind of hard to interpret, but if we think we can pick one that's close to our location, we can go ahead and answer yes to that question. Or we could actually call the Colorado Water Conservation Board and give them our location, and they should be able to tell us if we're close to an in-stream flow right location. So in this case, I'm just going to say I don't know. Have surface water diversion points near a municipality or a power generating station such as Xcel Energy or an oil gas extraction site. So I'm going to say that we do have a surface water diversion point that would be near a municipality since we used the location of Clear Creek. And then on the next one, do we own a potential aquifer recharge groundwater storage area? Well, most people are probably not going to know the answer to this. I certainly don't know the answer today relative to Clear Creek and Colorado Cattlemen's Association, so I'm just going to put no, don't know. And do we or our water supplier lease or purchase supplemental water from others to meet irrigation needs? Now, this really goes to how much water do we have available when times get tough. And during normal years, do we have to lease a portion of our water to meet our irrigation needs? I'm going to say that no, we never do. We have a pretty strong water right. And the next question is related to the one before. During the recent droughts of 2002 and 2012, how much water did we have available for irrigating? So in this case, we have multiple options. We could say we fully irrigated all season, which would suggest we have an extremely senior right with very robust quantities associated with it. Or we can say we had at least 75% of the usual amount during the recent droughts. Or we had more than half, but less than 75% of the usual amount. I'm going to pick that one, and that's going to give us a score of 1. And then what is the appropriation date of the oldest water rights? And again, we see that plus icon. I can add multiple rights and multiple dates in here, but I'm only going to get a score for the very first one. And you can see the default date is 1860. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to change this to, let's say, April, and I'm just going to enter, we'll say, April the 30th, and I'm just going to change the year here and say it's 1890. So that number is going to vary around the state in terms of how senior it is to other water rights. In the Clear Creek area, in the South Platte River Basin, an 1890 water right, which seems very old to us, is actually pretty new. There are a lot of senior rights that would be ahead of that one. So I got a score there of 2. So let's go on now to the last question, and what is the decreed amount of the oldest water right? And that can be either in cubic feet per second or in acre feet. Well, I'm going to make something up here and say that our decreed amount is 1 CFS, and that might be a reasonable amount that I would have if I actually had a right on Clear Creek. So you can see now we have finished our questionnaire, and that didn't take very long, so we now have a score of 24. Well, what does that mean? Well, it indicates that our ag water lease potential is good. Now, we can stop right there if we're satisfied, and we can just leave the page, or we can say I want to view my results. So if I view my results, it's essentially just going to summarize the questions I went through, the responses I provided, and then the scores that were associated with those responses. It gives me the lease potential score of 24, indicating that's good, and then what that means. A good lease potential suggests a combination of traits related to the water right are favorable for supplying water for other uses via a leasing arrangement. It doesn't make any statement as to whether a lease would be available for me to engage in. It simply says that the conditions that I have that are related to my water right suggest that I have a pretty decent lease potential for that water right. Okay, so if I want to print out a PDF, I can do that simply by clicking on Result PDF, and that will produce that screen, and I can either save that document or I can print it out, either one. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to go to the rating criteria. And the rating criteria I mentioned earlier, and that describes each one of the questions and why you would get a good, moderate, or limited ranking or score related to those based on your answers. And so it goes to things like the top left here says water right is located in the Colorado, Arkansas, or South Platte River Basin. So we know that those basins, especially the South Platte and the Arkansas, have extremely high demand for water. In the Colorado River Basin, it's pretty variable, but it is increasing. If we go over to the far right side here, we see that in the limited category, if we have a water right in the North Platte River Basin, that was one that we would have gotten a score of 1 on the questionnaire, and that is because there simply isn't a lot of demand for additional water in the North Platte River Basin because there isn't a lot of population growth that's occurring at that location or in that watershed. So I'm going to go back now to my original screen, and then I can click on Learn More if I want to find out more information about ag water leasing, about water, and that's going to take us to a different tab, a different part of the website. We're now under the Resources tab, under the Publications section here, and provides different information about water rights and things. And I will point out, since we're here, that we also have webinars that are posted here, and we can either watch any one of these webinars. This one, our number one webinar that we did first was on successful ATMs in Colorado. If you don't have time to actually view the webinar, you can click on the highlights, which is a document which simply summarizes the points that the presenters made during that webinar. So these are some of the things, and the last thing I'm going to point out is our water lease map on our website. And that shows some leases that are occurring or have recently occurred around the state, and you can use your mouse and mouse over these numbers here to indicate and give you a brief description of the lease that's going on. And if you want to know more, you can simply click on that, and in this case it links back to the webinar highlights document I just showed you, because we highlighted this lease in the first webinar that we did. So that concludes our evaluation of the decision support tool. If you have any questions, you're free to go to the Colorado Cattlemen's Association's Ag-Water Network website, and you can sure contact me or contact CCA at 303-431-6422.